The following podcast may contain adult language and conversations revolving around situations not suitable for immature audiences. Spoilers and general political incorrectness can often be expected, so listener discretion is advised.
They must be destroyed on sight!
Alright, we're back. Welcome to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 94. And we're back talking some more crime movies. This time we're going to be talking Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia from 1974. I am your host, Lee. Why? Because it feels so goddamn good, Russell. And I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel. You guys are definitely on my shit list, Harper. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and I thought you were going to go give me a double Jack and Coke.
I wouldn't want to drink that.
I've been known to drink quite a few Jack and Cokes in my day. I'm not proud.
I don't even know what Benny is drinking throughout the entire film. It's either vodka or tequila, one or the other.
I was assuming it was a clear tequila. That was kind of my go-to. You know.
Oh man.
One of the Cuervo or one of the
Yeah, and
not that we've talked too much about alcohol in our lives or anything, you know.
Yeah, so we do have a few comments here, and I'll just get to them really quick. We have a couple on our YouTube videos, because I was negligent in getting some of our past episodes up on YouTube in the last couple of weeks, and I finally did, and then we got some CB Fall comments. For our episode on The Driver, he says, amazing podcast. For our episode on Fargo, he says, excellent and crazy reviews about this movie.
Awesome. I don't know that if those two comments have been reversed on terms of the movies, I don't know that I would have known the difference, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't know what was crazy about our reviews of Fargo, but
it was probably Jack's presence. I would assume that would be the thing.
A crazy British man and his weird ideas about film.
Yeah.
And on our episode for A Simple Plan, someone going by the name Earthman said, thought I was the only one who loves this movie. Excellent job, fellas. I enjoyed this very much. Well, thank you very much. So we can move on to what we've watched in the last little while, and I'll go to you first there, Daniel.
Sure. I've been watching the new Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, so have I.
Oh, nice. So we could talk about that. How are you finding the new Mystery Science Theater 3000?
I'm not enjoying it. But then again, this is coming from a person who wasn't a fan of the first series, so...
Sure, how far did you get?
I started with the first episode, I skipped a couple, and went straight to Star Crash, and I didn't enjoy anything on either of those episodes. I watched both of them all the way through, too, by the way, but I didn't enjoy anything on either one. I guess maybe Mystery Science Theater just isn't for me, I guess. It's just not my type of humor. I just don't like it. I don't find the jokes land at all. And I felt, at least in the original series, sometimes some of the skits and the jokes would land for me a little bit. Mm-hmm. But here, nothing is landing for me at all. It's just like, oh god, this is cringeworthy almost.
I actually, someone who is kind of a casual fan of the original, and by casual fan, I mean today I'm kind of like, oh, that's kind of... we've talked a little bit about Mystery Science Theater. On our Kitten with a Whip episode, we talked a little bit about it. And right. I feel like, I went through a period where I was kind of a big fan of it. It really is a show that when it works, it really works, and when it doesn't, it really doesn't. So it's definitely got a very hit or miss quality to it, and most of it is just kind of like, that was fine, you know. I will say, the second episode in particular, there was a portion of that had me literally crying laughing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and probably not even, like, if I explain the joke to you, it's not even that funny. It's just the experience of watching it for me literally just, it literally put me in tears. If you watched the first one and didn't find it, because I thought the first two were really quite good, so if you watched Streptococcus and were not a fan of it, then, I get it, it's not for you. I will say that I was really skeptical of it, and it ended up being good enough to kind of justify itself in my mind. It did kind of put me back in that time period when I was a big fan of it and kind of going, oh yeah, I kind of get why this exists. Whereas a lot of these kind of remakes and reboots and everything, it just kind of goes like, yeah, I don't care. Even though it's pandering to me, I don't care. This panders to me in ways that I enjoy. So at least I have to admit that as somebody who went through a period of being a big fan, it satisfies that itch. But it is a little bit hit or miss. I've watched through Star Crash. I've watched all of them up through Star Crash, and it's been a yes, I've been enjoying sitting and kind of watching one in the evenings before I go to bed. But it hasn't been something that I've been like obsessed with. It's just been like, oh, this is fun. When it's over, it's over.
It was a crowd-funded return anyway, so I mean, if it's going to pander to anyone, it's going to pander to the people who like the first one. I mean, that's who it's for. That's who backed it. So, I mean, you know, if you like it, you like it. That's great. I mean, I'm just not a big fan, so it's like, I don't need to watch the rest of the series.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you watched Reptilicus and weren't on board with it, then that was the best one so far, as I'm concerned.
Ooh.
Yeah. I will say that one of the things that I admire about it, I mean, I'll give you one more thing I admire, and then one thing that like kind of pisses me off, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. The one thing that I've really admired is that they've actually picked movies that are fairly watchable, which definitely affects the my experience of watching it, because a lot of the old show, they just kind of picked stuff that was just completely stupid. And when the movie itself is completely unwatchable, it's hard to even watch the riff version of it, you know. Whereas with the new ones, the first 6 episodes or so are all movies that are like, I would sit and kind of watch this anyway. And so the jokes just kind of, even when the jokes aren't necessarily landing, I'm just kind of watching the movie. The kind of more negative thing is, it was one thing to do like all the special effects that looked like they were made for $4 when they were actually made for $4 by 15 people. Now that they've actually got like a cast and crew of nearly 100 people in the credits, and you can definitely tell that these are super talented people who are kind of slumming it. The like shitty production values kind of, it comes across as it's pandering. It's openly pandering at that point, and it does lose a little bit of its charm that way. Again, as I say, it's definitely enjoyable. I will definitely keep watching it, and I plan on. It's got Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt, and anything with those two people is not going to be entirely bad, regardless. But I think it's kind of a worthy remake of the original. But again, if you're not a fan of it, then you're just not going to be a fan of it. And I get that completely. So yay, if you needed this podcast to tell you that Mystery Science Theater 3000 is back, and you were a fan of it before, then I don't know why you're here in the first place. But I'm not hating it, so go.
And I think there's still a shit ton of the original episodes on Shout Factory TV's free streaming service as well. Yep. If you want to go check those out.
Including the Kitten with a Whip episode, which I looked up today. The Kitten with a Whip episode is up on YouTube. So I watched a little bit of that just to see what it was, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of what I expected it to be. Watching 10 minutes of it. We'll see. Maybe I'll sit down and watch it one of these days. But it rekindled a little bit my my enjoyment of the show, and I'm enjoying that. It's not an amazing experience. I think Mystery Science Theater is sort of a, like, you kind of have to find it at that particular age, sort of phenomenon. I think it is like you have to kind of come to this in a particular time and in a particular place in order to really kind of get why it's enjoyable. So yeah, I can't imagine being like my age now and sitting to watch this for the first time and getting much out of it. I feel like it's it's kind of reminding me of like, oh right, I remember being like 18 or 19 and enjoying it.
Yeah, well, it's just doing now what everybody, whoever ripped them off, does.
Right. So. It's kind of what we do, is talk about old movies that sometimes suck and talk about why they suck. Like it's
a couple things I watched. First thing I'll mention, and I'm not going to really describe the plot or say why it's so good, but I'll just say Get Out is probably the best movie of the year so far that I've seen. Not just best horror movie, just flat out best movie I've seen this year. It's fucking amazing. It goes in directions totally didn't expect. If you hear the synopsis or the premise, you kind of think to yourself, okay, I know where this is going to go. I know what its bent is going to be, what it's going to say about certain people. Kind of flips the script a little bit in a really interesting way, and it's probably one of the most intelligent horror movies I've ever seen, and I was just constantly surprised by where it went. So I'll just say that if you haven't seen Get Out yet, fucking see it. It's really, really good. And the other one I watched is called The Void, and it's a Canadian-made one from the guys from Astron 6 who did The Editor, which was on one of my Best of the Year lists last couple of years. Well, it's not from Astron 6, but it's a couple guys from Astron 6 who've sort of broken off to do their own thing. It was a crowd-funded thing that I put $20 into like a couple years ago. And it's not bad. It's one of those films that sort of, wears its influences on its sleeve, but it doesn't show off that, hey, I know all this stuff about old horror movies, and I'm just going to recycle it and throw it in your face. It's much more actually trying to work within the genre that you could sort of argue that people like Fulci and Carpenter sort of created. So it's trying to do something a bit more original within those sort of confines. Mostly successful. Its low budget kind of hurts it a little bit in that its lighting is really bad. So I feel like they were trying to maybe keep the lighting down to like just sort of hide the loose ends and the seams in the film when they really shouldn't have, because their practical effects kind of get hurt by it because it's all practical effects. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a good little horror film. It's kind of the victim of being just an okay little horror film in the last 2 years where horror films have just been fucking awesome and hitting box office records and shit like that. So, but it's worth checking out.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. You say it's like dark. Is that do you think that they just ran into the technical problem of like they saw they wanted to kind of hide their practical effects a little bit and just like turn the lights down, or do you think they were going for atmospheric and just landed on dingy?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think they were kind of like, okay, we have all these practical effects and we got to kind of shield them a little bit because even though they look pretty good, we're still a budget fucking film. Also, they were going for atmosphere. Like it's kind of a siege narrative kind of thing because all these people are trapped in a hospital. So it's kind of like John Carpenter, like or Assault on Precinct 13. So it's got that sort of vibe to it. And then it's got all this interdimensional hoo-ha and all this other stuff, too, going on in it. I'd actually like to know if it was a conscious decision to make it so dark, because it's, like, at times really dark, where you can barely tell what's going on in some scenes. So it kind of hurts the film in that way.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. And I think some of these old films are kind of designed to do that, to where, it feels like that's a deliberate stylistic choice just to kind of make it super dark, but then especially watching it on a computer monitor on a television as opposed to in a theater, I think that it just becomes incomprehensible. That's one of the central things about I've bitched about this movie before on this podcast, Blade Runner. One of my bitch things about Blade Runner is that it's just too fucking dark, man. It is too fucking dark. I can't. There's some gorgeous stuff in it, and then there's like half the movie I don't know what the fuck is going on in that movie at all.
But yeah, that's what I've watched in the last little while.
I remembered before we started recording, I said that there was something that I watched and I couldn't remember what it was. And now you mentioned Assault on Precinct 13. I did not see Assault on Precinct 13, but I did see The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh, did you? The original?
I did. The original, yeah.
What'd you think of it?
That's really fucking good. It might go on my best of the year list, honestly.
Nice.
I had never seen it until this week, or I guess last week. It's been 2 weeks since we recorded, so. No, I sat down. It was on Amazon Prime. I just, put it on one night. It was one of those, I'll watch half of it and then watch the other half tomorrow, and then, stayed up late when I had to work the next day and watch the whole fucking movie. Wow, it's a really effective thriller. I would not think that a movie about taking a New York subway car hostage would be as effective as it is, because that's this really kind of bizarre thing. I hope we actually cover this at some point. Walter Matthau's great in it. This is a legitimate classic for a reason. I would definitely recommend people seeing that, and I feel ashamed that I got to be 37 years old and had not seen it.
Well, it was only maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I actually saw it for the first time too. So
so I feel less bad.
Yeah, because I actually saw the remake first, and I was like, okay, well, the original has to be better than this piece of shit. So,
who's in the remake? Is that John Travolta? I seem to remember that being John Travolta.
Yeah, John Travolta and Denzel Washington.
Oh God, who plays who?
John Travolta's in The Bad Guys.
Of course he is.
Yeah, he's the bad guy.
And then Denzel Washington is Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
Because when I think Walter Matthau, who do I cast for the new Walter Matthau. I think Denzel Washington.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I would probably lean towards like a more of a nondescript, normal-looking guy. He doesn't look kind of like a dashing movie star so much.
Right.
So I'd probably go with like William H. Macy or something like that. But who knows?
Or Philip Seymour Hoffman. Of course, he's now dead, but something
right.
like that would have.
Well, Hoffman might work as the bad guy too, because I like his bad guy roles.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Or Macy might work as the bad guy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that, and actually any recasting of that movie wouldn't have helped it, though. It's just not that good.
One more thing I saw, which I'll mention here. I watched on Netflix Officer Down.
Okay.
Downe. This is a movie, just knew nothing about it. Click on it. This is kind of sort of advertised as a immortal cop who, goes around killing bad guys and then comes back to life. It's not. It's a movie about a cop who he dies, and then they bring him back to the station, and they bring him back to life through this like magical technology, which they go into way more detail than they need to on. And then he goes back out, and it's really stupid. And if I tell you that it was directed by one of the guys from Slipknot, you'll understand how stupid it is. It's exactly that movie. It's directed by a guy from Slipknot. Yeah.
Wow, so does everyone in the cast wear weird masks, or?
A lot of them do. More than.
Seriously?
No, they don't really wear weird masks.
Oh, okay.
But there are lots of weird costumes. The lead is a guy, like, just to tell you the sort of sense of humor of the film. It was aggressively stupid, and not even the action wasn't even very good. Like, I was kind of like, well, I'm okay with this being stupid if it's kind of like balls to the wall crazy with a lot of cool action. There's a little bit of cool gore. There's some, like, cutting body parts off and that sort of thing. But, man, that was a complete waste of, like, 85 minutes of my time, except that I decided to watch it all just so I could talk about it on this podcast and then nearly forgot about it. So, yeah. I saw that. It's stupid. It looks like a Slipknot video. That's what it looks like.
Oh, man. So, It kind of sounds like it's like a really bad ripoff of like Shoot 'em Up or the Crank movies.
Yeah,
which, at least have a really good sense of humor about themselves.
Right. I mean, this is. I mean, it simultaneously is like it doesn't take itself. I mean, it's based on a graphic novel, which I was kind of like, okay, maybe the graphic novel has some like ideas behind it, because they are trying to go for this like idea about like authoritarian cops and kind of like like this kind of over the top kind of idea about like who cops are and who they save. Really, they just destroy everything when they show up. Mm-hmm. They are kind of going for that a little bit at first, and then it just kind of devolves into this really stupid like coming of like the rookie cop who's following Officer Down around, and like he has to like prove himself sort of narrative. So it gets really stupid. You're not even following around the main character anymore, and the main character, like, by definition doesn't have any like personality because he doesn't seem to really know where he is, except they try to build pathos about. I mean, I don't know. It's like it's trying to do like 5 different things. It's doing none of them particularly well.
So it's a bad ripoff of the new Judge Dredd movie as well.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of made me think like somebody saw Rob Zombie movies, but then didn't even understand how to do Rob Zombie movies. That was kind of like it. I mean, it just, again, it's directed by a guy from Slipknot, and that's all you need to know about the film.
Yeah, man,
that's what it looks like.
That I might actually have to check that out. That sounds really sad.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. There is in this like 91-minute movie, there's probably 20 minutes worth of like reasonably decent. Okay, this was not a complete waste of my time kind of thing, Right. And most of it's at the beginning before they actually explain the premise. So,
So, yeah, okay, we'll take a quick break here, and then when we'll come back and we'll talk about the film.
Badasses, Boobs, and Body Counts is a weekly podcast that discusses grindhouse and exploitation cinema. Your 3 hosts, Mike.
It's a quick... Thank you, come again. Not racist at all.
Mark.
If you bend over and you have what is essentially a pubic cottontail coming out the crack of your ass, you need to do some goddamn grooming.
And listener favorite Iris.
I'd not have sex with that horse.
will make you question your own political correctness while laughing at theirs. Episodes drop every Sunday and can be found by searching BB and BC podcasts via Libsyn, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio. You can also listen to episodes directly from the show's website at badassesboobsandbodycounts.com.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How did you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hello and welcome to Hello, This is the Doom Show. I'm Richard.
And I hate the burning.
Shh, who are you? Speak.
And I'm Brad.
She came in and said, "Buck, buck, buck," and he said, "Buck, buck, buck," and she said, "Buck, buck, buck, buck." That's what I got.
One is the Suspiria boner, the other's the Inferno boner. Anyway.
Which one is crying? The boner of tears.
Hello, This is the Doomed Show is available on hellodoomedshow.podomatic.com and doomedmoviethon.com.
Hello, this is the Doom Show. Richard, Brad, Jeffrey, Nava. It's the Doom Show. Hello, this is the Doom Show. Slashers, giallo, and horror.
All right, now we're going to talk about the main event for this episode. Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia from 1974.
This is Alfredo Garcia. He's about to become a very important man.
We are looking for an old buddy of ours, a compadre named Alfredo Garcia.
A private army is scouring 3 countries to find Alfredo Garcia.
Well, don't worry, if he's alive, I'll find him. Alive isn't our problem.
Someone has offered $1 million for his head.
If I ever get my hands on him, I'm going to kill him. All we require from you is physical proof that Garcia is dead.
And we're prepared to settle for his head.
Bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia. This man will become an animal.
Alfredo's our saint. He's a saint of our money.
I want to take it to him.
I love you. This woman's dreams of love will be destroyed.
I've been here before. You don't know the way.
Innocent people will suffer.
With Alfredo's help, we can do anything, honey.
Holy ground will be desecrated.
You don't want me to be part of that, do you?
You are a part of it.
25 people will die.
Just being together is enough.
No, it's not, baby.
All because of Alfredo Garcia. And only one man really knows why.
Kill him.
Sam Peckinpah, director of the greatest adventure films of our time, has made possibly his most powerful and startling motion picture.
directed by Sam Peckinpah, written by Frank Kowalski, who did the story, and Sam Peckinpah. And then Sam Peckinpah and Gordon T. Dawson worked on the script and screenplay for this, starring Warren Oates as Benny, Isela Vega as Alita, Robert Webber as Sappensley, Gig Young as Quill, Helmut Dantine as Max, Emilio Fernandez as El Jefe, Chris Christopherson as Biker, Donnie Fritz as John, and Janine Donado? Okay, whatever. As Teresa. Too many D's. Fuck me up. And too much scotch as well. Daniel, want to give us a little synopsis there, please?
Sure. I didn't write anything, and the version on Wikipedia is way too long, but basically this is a story of... It starts off with Teresa, who's a pregnant teenager whose dad is some, like, big drug lord or something, who finds out she's pregnant, but he wants to know who the father is. He tortures her to find out who the father is. She says it's Alfredo Garcia, and then he puts a bounty on Alfredo Garcia's head for $1 million. It turns out our hero, Benny, I put hero in quotes there, kind of knows who this guy is. His girlfriend apparently was dating him for a while, went on a 3-day bender with him, cheating on our hero, Benny. He's played by Warren Oates. And went off with this guy and probably was in love with him, and more in love with him than with our lead, which kind of becomes an issue. Anyway, he goes off with her to find out. It turns out the guy's dead, so it's going to be really easy to get his head and take it back to the bad guys to get what he thinks is only $10,000. Once they get to the grave, Benny gets a smash in the head with a shovel. He wakes up, his girlfriend is dead next to him, the head is gone, and then he goes on a pursuit to get the head and then to take it back to the bad guy, and at the end everybody dies.
Yep.
So that's the movie. I'm sorry I did not write a detailed synopsis, but that's literally the movie.
Yeah.
At least that's the plot. I will leave it at that. There's more to the movie than that, but that's the plot. Oh, and rape happens for no reason about a third of the way in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I assume this is first time watch for you for the podcast.
No, actually, I had seen this about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I had seen this before.
Okay, so I'll let you get into your initial thoughts on this one then.
I liked this a lot more on the first watch than on the rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it that. First time I watched, this was a Netflix rental. You know, I watched it. I found it really involving. I really liked the pacing of it. This sort of a slightly languid structure. I really loved the way it's shot. I love Peckinpah's direction. I really love the performances, and I still love the performances.
Yeah.
Rewatching it, kind of knowing what the, kind of where the movie goes, it lost a lot of its dramatic heft for me.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself still kind of involved with Oates' performance, particularly in the second half once it's just him kind of talking to the head.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what ends up happening is he gets the head and then he's kind of sitting around for roughly 30 minutes of the movie. It's him just like talking to the fucking head.
Yeah.
That stuff is really good. That's Warren Oates in his straight up Peckinpah impersonation, about 75% drunk through the entire process. That stuff is really enjoyable. I don't know if Oates was drunk, but that was definitely Peckinpah's during he was in full stage alcoholism during the making of this movie. So I don't know. I found I enjoyed it, but I don't know that I have more to say about it, quite honestly.
All right.
I'm sure we'll get into stuff, but yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth seeing, particularly if you're a fan of Peckinpah. But man, it did not kind of hold up for me on a second watch.
Okay. You're definitely right that Oates is doing a Peckinpah impersonation here. I don't know how much drinking Oates did on the set. I imagine there was some because he and Peckinpah were kind of drinking and drug buddies to a certain extent. And Peckinpah was, of course, as you said, full into his alcoholism at this point. This was sort of his most personal picture in some ways, but it was also kind of a disaster on the set where it was, he would be constantly showing up drunk or just not showing up at all to shoot. Apparently Warren Oates introduced Peckinpah to cocaine on the shooting of this thing. So that might tell you some things.
Sure.
But yeah, this is a movie that Peckinpah decided to move the production to Mexico and decided to shun the big studios as much as he good because he never got final cut on any of his other movies. This is the one movie where he actually got final cut and shot it the way he wanted to shoot it. And it's probably, if you know Peckinpah to any sort of degree, it's really kind of his most personal film in a lot of ways. And it might speak for why it's so messed up, because Peckinpah was such a messed up guy himself, because he's kind of putting himself on screen here through War Notes. Like he's about 50% Peckinpah, he's about 10% Warren Oates, and then he's probably about 40% Humphrey Bogart impersonation. There's even allusions in the script to Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Yep. Fred C. Dobbs.
Yeah, Fred C. Dobbs.
Yep. I caught that. Don't worry.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. It's one of my all-time favorite films. I like it's sort of a lot. I think a lot of people misread this as just Peckinpah glorifying violence and macho behavior and things like that, when really this is, I think, is kind of a nice little takedown of those sort of attitudes and where they lead people. If you watch this film, almost everyone who has these sort of macho attributes, this sort of machismo, it just leads to their end. It just
yeah.
Benny especially.
Well, Straw Dogs is definitely kind of that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, but I think this is, I mean, it's interesting that this comes just a couple of years after Straw Dogs, because this is kind of a little bit of a repudiation of those kinds of ideas, just because, not just that it leads to his end, but just he's so fucking pathetic, you know? I mean, it's a nihilistic kind of film in that it is, look at all these assholes, they're all just going to sit and kill each other, and they're just, you know, there is no hope for anyone here, basically.
Yeah.
And the film definitely wallows in that, and that, I mean, that's its artistic. However much we might, you know, talk about that being realistic, that's certainly a valid artistic kind of place to be. But to say that this is like glorifying violence, I don't think this glorifies violence at all. I think this is definitely, I mean, you know, I think you could charge Peckinpah with that, but not here. I don't think this is that movie at all.
I would definitely say he's sensationalized violence, and I mean, with the sort of slow motion stuff that he's well known for. That's sort of went sort of far in strengthening that argument. But yeah, here violence is all short and ugly, and it never leads to anything good. And Benny's just this pathetic guy who's trying to live up to this macho image that he kind of thinks he needs to have, and he's constantly trying to play up to it. And I mean, it just basically leads him almost to like a kind of a Shakespearean tragedy, where his obsession with that and with his own jealousy, he never actually realizes what he actually has and what he could walk away with at any time and, you know, live happily. He just he dooms himself. He dooms Alita when all she wants to do is run off with him and get married. She doesn't care if he's fucking poor and pathetic, because she knows him. So for some reason she loves him. I can't quite fathom why. Because it seems like she could do a lot better, but for some reason she just wants to dissuade him through like the first half of the movie. She's constantly trying to get him to get off this kick of Alfredo Garcia. Like right at the beginning, he doesn't even really tell her why they're going to his grave. He seems like he's trying to play it off like, I gotta know he's dead, so I'll know that you truly do love me. And he finally lets her know, yeah, we gotta take this guy's head and take it to these bad guys and show it to them, and it's our ticket out of here. And even then she's, let's not do that. Let's just get married and get out of the country and take our chances.
Well, I kind of get the feeling that she's just as fucked up as he is. Right? You know, she's matching him drink for drink, you know, nothing else. She's very much in that world, and tougher than he is. Because, you know, during the rape sequence, Chris Christopherson, rapist, is, you know.
Well, it's a potential rapist, but he can't quite perform.
Yeah, there is that. But there's the, you know, basically he's one of the two bikers who shows up.
Yep.
And then there's this kind of a fairly extended sequence where at first they're kind of just being obnoxious, and then it kind of turns into a rape, which she does the acquiesce just to kind of make it over sort of thing. And she has a line of dialogue towards Benny. I mean, she says, you know, I forget exactly what it is, but like basically, I've been through this before. You haven't. You know? And there really is this sense of like Benny's kind of pretending to be a tough guy,
Mhm.
but it's very obvious he's not really a tough guy. He's just kind of a sad sack. I mean, he's almost a Willy Loman figure, you know?
Mhm.
Like, he's just trying to go through the motions to try to get this big score, which isn't even that big a score on the scale of things,
Right.
and then everything turns out badly.
Yeah, it's interesting because Chris Christopherson tries to like initiate the rape by basically dominating Alita. You know, trying. Ooh.
It's okay, that was just my air conditioner.
Okay, I thought some little toy fired up there or something.
Nope. That's my it was my air conditioner.
Okay. Yeah, he tries to. It's kind of ambiguous, like how the scene plays out. Like you can sort of interpret it in different ways. I think maybe that's one of the biggest flaws of the film. Actually, is that it doesn't quite get its point across with that scene, which is one of the key scenes in the film. So, if I was to point out like a major flaw in this, it's probably it leaves that a little too ambiguous, but.
Wait a minute, you mean Peckinpah didn't quite understand his female characters? You don't say.
She won't take Christopherson's shit. She won't be humiliated or dominated by him. And it seems like that kind of standing up to him makes it he can't perform. Like he just becomes impotent and but then she seems to have sympathy for him almost, and you can either play it she's having sympathy for him, or that she senses that Christopherson, who walks off to mope there with his gun for a moment, maybe she kind of senses that he's going to probably rage out and kill them both. So it almost feels like she's trying to initiate sex at that point to maybe save her and Benny.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely read it as she's not really into it. She's acquiescing in a way and kind of encouraging it as a way of making the best of a terrible situation. I mean, it is
Right.
kind of aligned to that nihilistic, like, sometimes this is all you can do. And I mean, in some cases, I mean, that's a heroic thing to do, honestly.
Mhm.
I mean, there's some terrible gender politics that's just built into this film. But, like, reading it that way is like, this is a heroic moment for her, and I'm really happy to read it that way. Honestly, I wish that he had played a little bit more like Cardinal in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Right.
Who, I mean, that scene is similar, but a much kind of better version just because there's more dialogue, and you kind of get a much better sense in terms of this is the decision she's making openly. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas I think it becomes a lot more problematic just because it's ambiguous exactly how we're supposed to feel about it.
Mhm.
Again, that does not at all come back in another Peckinpah movie where there's a very ambiguous rape sequence. Not in the slightest.
He was writing this as he was filming Straw Dogs in England.
Right.
So a lot of the same sort of ideas were probably floating in his head at the time. And of course, the final product is also an end result of binge drinking and
Right.
cocaine
I mean,
use.
I'm probably a little bit too harsh on it. It's not that I really love the way this looks. I love the kind of location shooting in Mexico.
Yeah.
I love how harsh it is. I love a lot of the performances. I really love all the performances. I'll just leave it at that. I love all the performances. I do think it's well made. I love the action sequences. I love how unforgiving they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, he does. It's interesting. Peckinpah does multiple camera setups, but he doesn't do a lot of takes. So, and he does do cuts between the different cameras as the action is going on, and it's usually it starts regular motion and then it cuts to a slow motion shot from a different angle. It's kind of neat that way in that everything sort of still flows naturally, but you're switching from the regular speed action to the slow motion, and you're not getting a lot of different takes on it. It's all pretty much one take for the most part. It all looks really good, and it all feels kind of more naturalistic in a way, like it's more realistic.
Almost minimalistic in the way it's shot. And even the some of the stuff I really love are the car crash sequences. There are a couple of kind of cool car crash moments, which are really gorgeous in the film, but not in an overstated way. You know, not in a like killing them softly way.
Oh God, yeah. Is this 2 episodes now in a row that we brought that up?
Yeah, I did that intentionally just to get us upset.
God damn it.
Well, you know, this might have been slightly middling but it's better than killing them softly. So.
Yeah, but it is neat how like Peckinpah, he did know Mexico pretty well, and he tried to give it like an authentic sort of rural Mexican feel, like the more poverty-stricken rural Mexico here. with all these small little scattered villages and all these people with these functional cars that their bodies are just totally beat the fuck up. Though, they just, man, Benny's Impala just goes through shit halfway through the film, and the car that the family of Alfredo Garcia follows him in is even worse. I don't even know how the fuck it fucking operates. It's so crunched up. It looks like a squashed tuna can of some sort. But yeah, I like that. I like how it is like really beautiful countryside. But he doesn't make it like a travel log either. It's not like, oh, look how beautiful Mexico is. It just becomes part of the background. And
I mean, it looks like these two kind of loser, low life characters kind of driving through the country, and the country is beautiful. And for a while, it does kind of seem like, oh, it's kind of a date movie, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is like that because it's got those really nice scenes where they're having the picnic and they're just hanging out and they're singing songs.
I mean, she's like playing the guitar while they're driving and sort of thing. I mean, you know, when they're talking about. I mean, it's sort of a relationship movie in that first half.
Well,
it's about these two characters.
Well, their chemistry is really good. Like,
I love her in this movie. You know what I love about her? She's obviously a model, but she doesn't look like a model.
Right.
She looks like. I mean, they haven't like made her up in the way that, because I mean, she did Playboy right after this, or like a year after this or something, and you know, you can find those images online, and she's fucking gorgeous. But I mean, I was watching this and going like, I mean, she's 34 here. I mean, I did look, she's like 34, 35, something like that. So it's not like, oh, she's old. You know, I'm not trying to like criticize her for that, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but she doesn't look like the 23-year-old ingenue that you would kind of get out of you know, other movies of this type, you know.
Right.
She definitely looks like someone who might be a romantic partner to Warren Oates' character here.
Yeah, no, she authentically looks the part. Like, she just looks like a person you would expect to meet in real life who just happens to be stunningly beautiful. She's just not done. She doesn't have her hair done up. She's not wearing makeup, right? And she doesn't come off as what the obvious thing would be to do is to hire like a really thin, sexy supermodel type and put her in the role and you know, make it way too obvious that she's not actually this character. She's, you know, just someone they hired for the part, right?
Right.
And yeah, I love the chemistry between the two. I mean, I could almost...
She's not like the girl from Revolver sort of thing.
No. Yeah, that's true.
Not that there's something... I mean, actually, I kept thinking of Revolver just because of the, like, clear drunken performance. But yeah, I mean, as good as Revolver is and as good as this is, you know, they are kind of similar thematically in some ways, but very different films. She's never quite the level of eye candy that she might be in a lesser film, and she's never quite the level of Peril Monkey. You know, it's not like she's taken off to be raped and like we fear for her. I get the sense she knows what she's doing. She knows how to handle herself. She's really got it under control. Although, you know, it's probably good that, you know, Warren Oates just comes by and kills the guy. But at the same time, it's, you know, I don't feel like, you know, he has to come rescue her.
No.
You know, and in a lot of ways, she's my favorite character in the film. And then when she dies, it does. She's killed off screen, literally off screen. You know, he just kind of wakes up in a grave next to her, and she's dead. For me, I get the sense that he's not so much mourning the relationship as much as he's mourning how terrible he kind of has been. You know?
Yeah. No.
And it's not like he owes it to Alfredo Garcia as much as like, well, we both shared something, and so I'm just gonna go get even. But it's not even I'm gonna get even. It's like he hates himself for doing this to the world. You know.
Yeah, his revenge is kind of revenge on himself as well. But yeah, the performances between the two are really good. I just like how she really jumps into it. You can tell that she's having like a lot of fun just working with Oates, and it really does come off as almost like they were a couple, you know, in real life. What do you think of our two, I don't want to say hitmen, but they're the two criminals who come in and question Vinny early on in the film, Robert Webber and Gig Young?
I really like these guys. It's one of those guys who has the Fred C. Dobbs moment, you know, where he's saying, "I'm Bogart from Treasured Sierra Madre," which is another film about, you know, an American in Mexico. doing morally ambiguous things. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
So the idea that we're not only name checking Bogart, but we're name checking, that same kind of like general structure is kind of interesting. I kind of get the they've been hunting around. They're perfectly willing to let somebody else do the dirty work.
Yeah, they're middlemen kind of.
And I mean, right. And what's interesting is they're like Warren Oates kind of treats them as they're the big badass guys with a lot of money, know. But really, they're exactly what you say. They're the middlemen. They're just the guys who are, they're contracting out to him, and they're just gonna take the head and then trade it up for $1 million, and he's only getting 10 grand out of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting dynamic, to where it just shows you what a lowlife and what a nobody Benny is.
Yeah.
Because he's willing to do this for nothing in comparison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're both. I think there was a line there somewhere. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I get the impression that Sappensley and Quill were, and these are the two characters, were kind of. They've been trying to search around for about a couple months, and they haven't found anything.
Right.
And I mean, El Jefe puts out sort of a general bounty on Alfredo Garcia, who, by the way, was sort of like the guy he was grooming to be his successor before he knocked up his daughter.
Right.
So,
whoops.
Yeah, whoops. These two go around looking and they don't find anything. Then there's the other two hitmen as well, who are the lower level ones that are sort of tailing Benny.
Yeah.
To see where he goes. It's interesting. These two, they only come in briefly at the beginning of the film. There's that shocking scene where Robert Webber's character just flat out elbows a hooker trying to move in on him.
Remind me a little bit of the sequence in the Long Goodbye.
Right.
But less violent, ironically. That the Altman film has the more violent scene than the Peckinpah.
Well, I mean, they make their point really quick. I mean, they set up the menace of these two characters really well, just with that one action. And with Gig Young's character, he sort of comes off this kind of tired sadist almost, like the way he just sort of smiles. He's just got this sort of weight of the world, kind of bored by everything. And
there's the you don't want to disappoint us.
Yeah.
If we're gonna give you, I mean, we give you $200 for traveling money, for expenses to go bring us the head, and if you don't find it in 4 days, we're gonna come after you, sort of thing. And you totally get that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
Despite the fact that, I mean, other than that one punch or that one elbow that puts the woman on the ground, you don't really see them do anything else that's at all badass or violent or anything. They sell it through the performances. You don't have to get the sort of details of what's really going on here.
Yeah, it's only near the end there where they finally do make good on their promise and catch up with Benny.
Yeah.
And of course, Benny has also been caught up by Alfredo Garcia's family. Then they have that tour bus come in. Everyone's pointing guns at Benny, and then that tour bus is coming, and they immediately put their guns away, and they move the cars out of the road to let them pass by. And then there's Gig Young and Robert Webber all of a sudden, and you see what badasses they really are, and you also see that they're gay lovers.
Do you?
Yeah. Did you not get the subtext that those two were gay lovers?
I completely missed that subtext. I now need to go rewatch this film, apparently.
If you notice, Robert Webber's character, he's the one with the grayer hair. Gig Young's the one with the darker hair, the tired sadist, as I said. When he gets killed, you can see emotion finally come out of Robert Webber's character, and the last thing he's focused on is Quill. He walks over to him after Benny shoots him. And he walks over to possibly, lay down beside him and hold him in his arms or whatever. But of course, Benny then finishes him off. But I get that. I just didn't process it quite on that level. But you're right. There is a tenderness between these two characters that's interesting. Yeah, it was actually a choice by Robert Webber. He had an idea that these two were ambiguously gay. I guess, but so I mean that's actually more why and plus they're psychos, right? But so that's sort of why they treat the hooker that way when she comes up to him at the bar there. He just drops the elbow right in her face, right?
It's I don't care about you. I've got my lover's right here. It's fine.
Yeah.
I get that. Gay people, evil. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, okay, it's the 70s. Gay people are evil. They have to be hitmen. They have to be
gay people are either funny or psychopaths. It's one or the other.
Yeah, it's like the gay hitman in one of the James Bond films. I think it's Diamonds Are Forever.
Swishy and dangerous. Ooh.
Swishy and dangerous, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting talking about the family of Alfredo Garcia that follows Benny around. When you first meet up with them, like when they arrive at the town there to find Alfredo's grave, this whole town is basically, or even if you could call it a town, it's more like a small little hamlet.
Yeah, it's a little village. It's not. I mean,
it's pretty much the entire family living there. I think that's pretty much the population of the whole place, is just the entire family living there. So when it starts out, there's a funeral going on for a little kid, like a baby, like a mini coffin. Alfredo Garcia just died earlier. This whole family catches up with Benny and gets massacred, except for the oldest guy, the oldest generation. So he's the only one left. The oldest generation just saw his entire family, all the generations after his, get wiped out within like a span of a week or something.
Yeah,
it's like, wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of black comedy in that the guy's kind of standing there, and he's the one guy, and he's kind of got this like stance where he's just waiting to be shot, and he's not, which is But you're right. There is a real kind of dark heart to that, because this guy just kind of watched everybody he knows and loves just be murdered.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, the use of the Spanish language here, because after the kind of opening sequence where everything is in Spanish, where Teresa is asked, who did this and that sort of thing, where you sort of have to translate it to get what's going on and to understand what the plot's going to be about.
Right.
They don't translate any of the Spanish. There are no subtitles to the rest of the film. And, particularly in that sequence where Elena is kind of talking to the matriarch. And you just kind of get a few words here and there, and then you get the word gringo. And then Warren Oates goes, what's she saying? He's like, I think we should leave.
Yeah. You'd get it. It sort of switches focus to basically puts you in Benny's shoes, where he's an expatriate who's out of his fucking depth here. He doesn't understand the language that well. So
although he's supposed to have been there for 6 years or something. So
yeah, it's weird.
You think he would have picked it up, but I mean, maybe it's just like he's just that drunk all the time, to where he doesn't. Dos cerveza is like all he really had to know. Although he does know the word for flies, we learned that, but he has to think about it. Like, oh god, what does that mean? Flies. Okay. Let me get some ice. Fresca.
Yeah, they actually had meat in that bag to actually get real flies. So like when I can't imagine how many times he had to drive in that car with just flies caked all over him and the inside of the car and stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty horrifying. Although I kept thinking on this watch, it was sort of on the the dead cat story is not a bad story.
No,
like that's a pretty good it's a dead cat. Okay, I get that. Also, we're in Mexico. It's got to be like 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And C, put the damn thing in the trunk. Then the kid isn't going to notice,
Yeah, Benny's too out of it to really...
Yeah.
To know better to do that.
I mean, he's not thinking straight, so I mean, that's fine. It was just sort of like one of those... I would have been like, oh yeah, dead cat. I'm going to throw it in the trunk now. Done.
The dead cat story at least sounds like something plausible you could throw at a kid and they'd like kind of understand that,
Right, yeah.
Like you told an adult that, they'd look at you like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But
I don't know, I kind of get the feeling that if this guy showed up, I mean, because also we're at this we're jumping around all over in this movie. He's walking around covered in literally grave dirt.
Yeah.
This is not, you can only imagine what this guy smells like and what this guy looks like.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of fucking nowhere, this gringo in the middle of fucking nowhere in Mexico. The idea that I've got a dead cat in a bag. It's like, okay, yep, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Although, you also imagine that violence is not exactly unknown to these people.
Right.
You think about the family and they all had, rifles and machine guns and stuff. So, I mean, there is this kind of, these are people who know how to defend themselves, and these are people who are not strangers to this kind of thing. And so I kind of imagine, oh yeah, my dead cat. And it's like, yeah, you're a dead cat. I get it. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not going to ask too many questions. Just leave.
Just crazy gringo, move on, please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have some ice. Go.
Yeah. The other one really nice joke I like in this as well, I kind of popped for was early on the two more bumbling hitmen that are tailing Benny. When they start out, the one guy is drinking all the time, the guy's driving, but by the time Benny catches up with them while they're changing the fucking tire, it's the other guy who's fucking drinking, and the guy who was drinking is now having to change the tire because he wasn't paying attention to what he was doing driving.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
So, why do you get to drink all of a sudden? Come on, man. Yeah. No. I did like that. I also I really liked that street food taco the guy's eating.
Oh yeah.
I was sitting there. I actually got a little bit of an appetite watching. I'm like, yeah, I could go for that right now.
Yeah, it looks like
delicious.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, you think like that. This is like we actually filmed this in Mexico. You could like that's probably just real street food.
Yeah, they
was
did
available in 1974, and
Yeah, all this stuff was shot on like real locations. Like the bar that they shot in was apparently like a real, like nothing was basically changed there for the most part. I think the only kind of set dressing he did was he put up that fake dollar bill with Nixon's face on it in behind there.
Nice.
Like there's a couple references to Nixon in this because of his disdain for Richard Nixon. So
well-deserved disdain.
Yeah, I think it was like the Watergate scandal that was partly one of the reasons why he decided to move to Mexico, basically, and get out of the U.S. He was so disgusted with that. But you see that, and then you see later on the more corporate bad guys that he brings the head to. One of them's reading a Time magazine with Nixon's face on the cover, right?
Yeah.
So it's not hard to see what he's trying to say there.
Yeah, it's interesting how I mean we've talked about this before a bit with in the like Night Moves discussion and some of the other stuff about this. The Nixon presidency kind of becomes this symbol, like this turning point towards this like malaise and like American filmmaking in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting that like this is happening at that exact moment, and just look at how fucking nihilistic this is. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's got a bunch of different things from Peckinpah's inner monologue, going on, all the different kind of things he hates, but it all just boils up into this one big nihilistic kind of outburst. I mean, he's running off the failure of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which was just a big fucking mess for him. Right. He had a lot of shit to work out in this film. Before we get to any trivia or anything like that, if you have any sort of final thoughts on this one.
I don't. I feel like. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've damned with faint praise a little bit. I mean, I do enjoy this film. I'm enjoying talking about it. I really enjoy kind of getting that perspective again. I think it maybe just didn't hit me as viscerally on a second watch. Mm-hmm. But it is definitely a really amazing film. It's really worth seeing. I think it's just kind of empty for me maybe on a second watch. There's just not much to kind of go and dig my teeth into, but it does have really great performances and a really great kind of central relationship. Warren Oates in particular is just fucking phenomenal in this, so definitely check it out.
I would probably personally rank Warren Oates as somewhere in the top 10 of my favorite American actors of all time. He's really sort of unsung. He rarely ever got like a lead role, right? So this is one of his rare lead roles, and he hits it out of the park. I really do like a lot of this stuff. I'm a big Peckinpah fan, so I sort of maybe I get a little sucked into the Peckinpah-ish aspects of this film more. I sort of maybe connect with it thematically a little bit more because I sort of but feel where he's going with it. So maybe my judgment's a little bit clouded.
Well, responding to a filmmaker aesthetically is there's nothing, I mean, at all wrong with just kind of saying the aesthetics work for me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any issue with that, despite kind of being like, and I'll probably watch it again one day and go, oh, this is brilliant. It just hit me on the wrong, week when I rewatched it for the podcast.
But I think it's a pretty good, gritty little crime tale. It reminds me of all the sort of 1950s and 60s sort of pulp crime stuff that I like reading. I mean, it really reminds me. I don't know if you're familiar with this author, but John D. MacDonald. Really,
another name.
I mean, he's the guy who wrote the source material for Cape Fear. But it feels a lot like his kind of stuff here. Very kind of minimalist, realistic kind of crime films that really strips away a lot of the glamour of the whole thing.
Because most crimes are kind of just shitty little like deals like this.
Right.
I mean, like a lot of murders for hire are just like, some guy with a mullet getting paid $500 to go like knock somebody's husband off, sort of thing.
Yeah. So just hit a couple little trivia things here. War notes to, sort of complete the Sam Peckinpah aspects of his character. Actually borrowed one of Peckinpah's pairs of sunglasses that he would commonly use. And he wears it pretty much throughout the whole film too. It's like they make a little thing of it where he rarely takes them off, and when he does take them off, and he's always squinting, and he makes allusions to when people look at him, damn your eyes, Like
he's even sleeping in them at one point.
Yeah, I mentioned the Nixon stuff. James Coburn was offered the role of Benny and turned it down because he didn't like the script. Harry Dean Stanton was almost hired to do the Chris Christopherson role, which, man, I don't know. As much as I love Harry Dean Stanton, I don't know if that would work.
I feel like Chris Christopherson in this, I kind of want to do a three movie sequence and do this movie, Taxi Driver, and Six Pack. Because he's not actually in Taxi Driver, but, Robert De Niro gives Sybil Shepherd a Chris Christopherson album.
Right.
After taking her to the porno theater. And then once you get to Six Pack, that's just the family-friendly comedy from the 80s that I watched a bunch that I haven't seen in 25 years. But it's got to be a nice pair for Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, right? Like, he graduates from, like, raping women in Mexico and then goes off to be a race car driver who adopts 6 children. That's kind of... He lives through this movie and goes off as the same character. He's just in, like, incognito.
Well, one I do want to watch at some point, which is another Peckinpah film, Convoy. I've never seen that one.
I haven't either.
But that's a Chris Christopherson film. But I think at some point we'll cover Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, where you really get to see Christopherson shine. Peter Falk was offered the role of Benny, but he couldn't do it because of Columbo. And man, that would have been, again, that's another head scratcher for me, trying to picture Peter Falk doing the Benny character. I don't know.
I just imagine him in the Columbo garb,
wearing a big trench coat in Mexico.
wearing a big trench coat in Mexico. Yeah. Like, I kind of want him to do that, like, as Columbo. Yes, Convoy is directed by Sam Peckinpah, and now I know we have to do it because Ally McGraw's in that. So now we just have to. Anything with Ally McGraw, man.
Yeah.
No, Peter Falk as Benny. Like, yeah, no, I totally get that, and
That's just weird. It's weird.
It's weird casting. I mean, I just I can only imagine that being the, like, we're gonna push it slightly more towards black comedy.
Yeah.
As opposed to making it quite as bleak as this is. That would be the, if you wanted it to be a little bit jokier, then that you cast Peter Falk.
You just shuffle around asking everyone weird questions the entire movie. It's just like, have you seen a head?
¿Cómo se dice Alfredo Garcia? ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? Yeah.
The music was done by Jerry Fielding, who's done all kinds of stuff. Like he did the Kolchak the Night Stalker series. He did the Bronson film The Mechanic. He did The Wild Bunch and Straw Dogs and The Killer Elite with Peckinpah. He did The Outlaw Josie Wales and The Big Sleep too around this time. And he's just another one of these, man, when I was doing research for the first episode of Blood on the Tracks, which, by the way, will be coming out at the end of this month, our soundtrack show, there was just a shit ton of, like, just these really solid jazz guys that were all doing scores in this period. And he's just another one of these. But I do like the score for this. The one piece of music that I could find for this score, because it's really hard to track down, it kind of draws from traditional, like, Andean folk music and stuff like that. It's pretty good stuff.
Nice.
Budget for this was $1.5 million. There's no box office. There is a rentals total worldwide of $2.1 million, but this was a box office bomb.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up on, like, a bunch of people's, like, worst films of all time list, which people just didn't get it. I mean, that's just sort of the bottom line.
I don't even know if so much people didn't get it is that a lot of people were just kind of anti-Peckinpah at this point too.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, he didn't help himself, of course, because he was constantly fucking on the studios and on the media and the critics and stuff like that himself. I mean, he was very antagonistic towards them, so it only makes sense that they'd be all antagonistic towards him as well, you know.
Yeah.
DVD info for this one. You can get what I own, the MGM Region 1 DVD from 2005. It's really good. It's got some Peckinpah scholars on a nice little commentary track that's fairly good. You can get the Twilight Time Region Free Blu-ray that was released in 2014, and there was an expanded edition in 2016. And those are your best bets. There is an Arrow Blu-ray that's Region B, but that's one of those limited to like 5-copy things that you... Good luck finding it, you know.
Yeah. Yes, let's do that. Let's make these films harder to find.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, so I guess we're done for old Alfredo Garcia.
Yeah,
Yep.
short and sweet. I mean, I feel like you know, Mike Murphy's gonna love us. Although we spent the first 25 minutes not talking about Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
Yeah,
so,
well,
you know.
when we finally have him on the podcast, we'll time him if he has anything he's watched in the last while, and then we'll criticize him if he takes too long. Yeah,
sounds like a plan.
So next week potentially is going to be White Heat and Night in the City, with Kit Power. We're hoping to get that put together. If not, we'll find something else on our
crime film list that we were supposed to have done by now, but we keep getting delayed.
Yeah.
But you know, hey, it's great.
But
no problems. And eventually, we're going to get to episode 100, which will be Night of the Living Dead live. Not really live, but a commentary track. So.
Yeah. Okay, so Daniel, tell people where they can find you.
Check me out. Just find me on Twitter. I'm at Daniel Lee Harper. I'm doing stuff. Wrong with Authority is a podcast that I'm doing roughly monthly with Kit Power and Jack Graham and James Murphy. There will be an episode upcoming, which will be about The Wolf of Wall Street and The Big Short. So we'll get to talk about Wall Street shenanigans and a little bit about math and a lot about assholes who make a lot of money. So look forward to that. That won't be up by the time this comes up, but it will be up very shortly. I know Kit's furiously working on the editing on that now, so hopefully that will be up fairly soon. So go check that out. It's wrongwithauthority.co.uk, I think, is the website. So go check it out.
Didn't he say all compiled that's like a 4-hour podcast right now?
Yeah, that's like 4.5 hours all told. And like, you fuckers had better enjoy it, because we have been trying to get this thing recorded for forever, because we kept running into technical issues and scheduling issues. And yeah, I mean, it's this thing has been in process for literally about 2 months at this point. So
yeah, they've been working like madmen on it. I've been a party to all the back chatter,
the back channel conversations. Yeah, there's a little secret back channel thing where all of us are like sitting and talking about stuff all the time. And lately, it's just kind of lots of political conversation, which is totally not expected from us. It's been fun times. And then suddenly it's like, hey, are we going to podcast tonight? Oh yeah. We should put on a podcast. It's great.
I was noticing like, oh shit, my connection's off. Are you guys still on? I'll be back on in a minute. I'm trying to connect now. Oh shit. Yeah.
We've been having Skype problems on Wrong with Authority. It's not been such a fun time.
For us, you can find us at tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find our iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook links. Join our Facebook group. It's the single best way to get in touch with us. And until then, we will see you guys later. Thank you for joining me, Daniel.
Always great to be here.
Yeah, and thank you for listening, guys. We'll be back. Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For past episodes and links to our iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook group, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. There you can also find links to other podcasts and websites of similar interest. If you subscribe to us on iTunes, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and a review. Please join our Facebook group, as it's the single best place to get in contact with the hosts and to know what's coming up on the podcast. Thank you. Drive through.